Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Neal, and I am the Director of College Counseling at Graded, the American School in Sao Paulo here in Brazil. And additionally, I am an instructor at UCLA Extension, and I teach a class called College Counseling for International Students. Tonight, I'm excited to share with you a couple of friends who um, are heavily involved in the artificial intelligence world. One of whom I'm very excited to share is a current student at Graded, a student with whom I work closely with, Vivian, and also Michael, a newer friend who oversees an organization, Harvey.io, that is a college counseling software platform. So without much introduction, without much further ado, I'm going to hand off to Vivian, who will talk us a little bit through her brainchild, if you will, Albie, and that of hers and her sisters. So Vivian, please take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Hello, everybody. I have a presentation prepared, so I'm going to share that screen real quick. So today I'm here to talk about Albie, which is a short for Active Learning Buddy, and it's a project that I started together with my sister, and she is also. I'm gonna be going to college in soon, so I'm still in high school, and my sister is graduating college soon. So it's something that we both started as students, really, and this is who we are. It started just as me and my sister, and later we called a friend of ours who is only a sophomore in high school too. So this really was a project that started as a passion of my sister and I to really address needs that we felt as students. So a little bit about what is Albie. So Albie today is a project that kind of accumulates the efforts of me, my sister, and Gabrielle to kind of address the needs that we felt as students within the scene of education utilizing AI. It started off just by me and my sister playing around with ChatGPT to kind of create lesson summaries, which is something that we did as students and later developed and kind of forked into different projects. So a little bit about our story and how it came to be. With the release of ChatGPT in the end of 2022, something that me and my sister that we really shared was our kind of our love of chemistry, but we both took the same chemistry class at Graded. And with that, we always spent a lot of time creating like these condensed notes about everything that the unit covered. And we spent a lot of time doing it. Both me and my sister, we were kind of perfectionists with it, but we ended up spending a little bit way too much time on it. We were both student athletes, so I've always had to spend kind of learn how to balance my time between school and my horses because I do horseback riding. And I knew that the kind of more efficient my studying was, the more time I was able to spend riding my horses, which is a huge passion of mine. So Albie was born out of this kind of need and this opportunity that we saw to help students study more efficiently. Um, Another thing that we felt at the same time, or something that I witnessed a lot at high school, at the high school level, was a lack of kind of good study habits. So my class of 2024, we entered high school during the pandemic, and we had our first 2 years through Zoom. And at that time, everybody stayed at home, so deadlines were really flexible. Tests didn't really exist. It was more project based, so we didn't feel this kind of normal pressure that usually high school gives you to learn how to spread out your studying, to study really efficiently, and to have these good habits. And that's something that when we got to the IB, as a class is something that we felt that caused us, it took us a while to adapt. So then that was where when me and my sister decided to call Gabriel, and we wanted to kind of put this together into use AI to help students instill good study habits and to study more efficiently, so that we can kind of overall help this student mental health. And from there, the idea was to help students during the storage stage of learning. We started reading a lot of books. One of the most influential during this process was Dr. Pooja Agarwal's Powerful Teaching. That was where some of the main inspiration for a lot of the features of our projects came to be. And what we realized that we really wanted to focus on was to take the classroom experience and to enhance that by making the at-home part, so the studying part at home, which tends to be more individual, involve the teacher as much as possible in that process so that the student feels less alone. And Albi, in the very beginning, was meant to serve as just a tool to help people study so that a person never feels completely alone and the teacher is involved in that process. So that's really trying to integrate everything that you learn into the classroom the most efficient way possible at home. And we decided to focus on retrieving the content that the teacher talked about in class, because one of the main concerns that my sister's professors had was that generative AI was here to kind of replace teachers, and that it was a tool that was actually decreasing the amount of critical thinking. But we wanted to kind of flip that on its head and actually use it as a tool to help teachers. So to help teachers understand where students are struggling and to really involve that teacher as much as possible within this process. And we wanted it to be a medium for dialogue between students and teachers and to have a lot of that transparency so that studying becomes something easier on the students and actually more efficient and less stressful so that people actually learn more. So some of the features that this ended up translating into were AI generated lesson summaries, because from our experience, a lot of our teachers use PowerPoints and Google Slides presentations to kind of cover the main topics. So from that, we created a pipeline that would take in the Google Slides presentation, and the teacher would input a few concepts, so the main concepts that would want covered, and Albi would generate a lesson summary, including examples and things that extracted directly from the Google Slides into a more digestible format. And another feature that we thought was really important was recall opportunities. So not only having those summaries, but helping giving the student opportunities to actually recall that information. So Albi generates from those lesson summaries and from the presentation a set of multiple choice questions so that the student can really test their understanding. And we added some metacognition in there, which was the student could grade the difficulty of the multiple choice questions from easy, medium, and hard. And all of that information is kind of collected and sent back to teachers to also help them understand where students are struggling more. And we created a similar to a Google Classroom interface where these two dashboards where the teacher can upload on the calendar upcoming tests to help the student plan and space out their studying, along with the teacher that does the upload of the Google Slides presentation and the concepts. So we really tried to focus on this aspect of it being a medium for conversation between both students and teachers. So from that, we developed a prototype. And during this process, one of the most important parts, these are just some screenshots of us testing it out and of the prototype being in use in my chemistry class, which we created a demo of. And our timing was a little bit off because it was right before IB exam started, around right before mock and IB exam started. So our classes were cut a bit short, but we really tried to get it to use within graded. And during this process, some of the most valuable feedback that we got was during this conversation with teachers at school, and especially with the learning lab at Graded, about these amazing teachers that are really there to help us make learning better. And I think gaining all that feedback, we realized that we did have some things to improve. And one of the main points that were brought up was the kind of cost of transitioning from a Google Classroom or LMS that the school is already utilizing to our platform. And that was some feedback that we had to incorporate. But after this prototype, these are just some of the main study methods and tools that we really try to incorporate into this almost learning management system. So we included the metacognition and the elaborative feedback, the elaborative feedback within the multiple choice quizzes. So Albie would tell the student what not only which question was right or wrong, but why each answer was right and why each answer was wrong, which is something that from my own experience doing past within the IB diploma, doing the past papers, when I go to correct my answers and check my answers, I only see which answer is correct, but they don't explain to you why each one was correct. So that was something that I personally felt the need for as a student, and which is something that we tried to address. And we tried to include the spaced repetition so you could collect past multiple choice questions and kind of mix it in. And we really included the calendar to help students space out their learning and their studying sessions. And this all accumulated into this prototype kind of that we have and that we started to test out. But once again, that feedback that it would be really hard for whole schools to transition into this. And that was something that was really valuable for us because that led us to our next venture. We decided to, with the same concept of enhancing the classroom experience using AI and helping students recall information and study more efficiently, transform Albi into more of a plug and chug that would work into any classroom, independent of which learning management system they use, which anything they use. And this was right at the time where everybody was in my classes were doing the New York Times crossword puzzles and the connections game. And it was something that everybody did almost religiously. And that was kind of the inspiration for this, because we were like, if people do that religiously, maybe they'll do a crossword based on their actual PowerPoint slides and the content covered in classes as religiously. And that is why we kind of created this, because we wanted something really fun and interactive and quick just to get people going and get people to really engage with the material. And we thought we would hop on that trend and really make the most out of it. But during this process, one of the main things that we realized was that we constantly kept hitting a wall and a barrier when it came to quality. So the quality of in this case, the hints that we would get, the quality of the answers that we would get, in the case of the multiple choice questions and the lesson summaries that we had created beforehand, the wall that we were hitting was sometimes it would not always generate accurate information. If we gave it the same inputs, the exact same inputs, sometimes it would give us completely different outputs. And that's just one of the main challenges that we had while working with this generative AI. So we started our the original Albi study with the dashboards and everything. We used ChatGPT's API for that, OpenAI's APIs. And then for the New York Times style crossword, we ended up transitioning into Gemini to try and get better results. And in the beginning, it did work better, but we really couldn't, there was almost this threshold that we couldn't get past, which has led us to our next venture. So today we are focused on fine-tuning our own model, and we really hope to work with more multimodal models. So our current venture is fine-tuning Llama 3, specifically to something that the three of us, me, my sister, and Gabrielle, are having common and are working towards, which is on the IB diploma, and kind of helping just students study better and to feel less alone in this process by having a study buddy that helps you identify your weaknesses. So the idea would be to first fine-tune our own large language model that can work with our multimodal large language model that can generate really quality stuff, and then after implement it into kind of almost robust environment for testing your understanding. So an AI that would be able to give you a quiz based on a set of learning targets provided by the school curricula and teacher. And based on that, generate a quiz and tell you your exact weaknesses, pinpointing it specifically to the different learning targets. And that is our current goal and the next venture that we have in this journey. And we're really excited about it, but we've had a few obstacles already, which is the amount of data that we need. It is a lot of data and it is very time consuming, but we are super excited to really try to get some really high quality and unmatched generation of questions to help students test their understanding, so that we can later go back to our original ideas of the crossword puzzle and the kind of learning management system to make that cost of transition worth it. So that is a little bit about Albi and this venture that me, my sister, and Gabriel are on.
Vivian, it's fascinating to me. Where do you find the time to do all of this?
As I mentioned earlier, I've been a student athlete my whole life. I started riding when I was only 3 years old. So kind of I learned to balance school and life outside of school from a really early age because I was always at competitions because they'd start on Friday. So I would have to miss school a lot. And I kind of learned ever since like elementary school that, the activity that we did in class, I would have to do at home later that day. And I think kind of because I started that so little later, it became a lot easier to take that into high school. And what's really interesting is that I kind of started this project during my senior summer, right before I started senior year, which is an especially the first semester of senior year is an especially stressful time with college applications and grades and everything. But I think the project actually helped me kind of not wormhole too much into just school and just academics. It helped kind of like keep me on track and balance to remember that there's a life outside of just doing that. And I think that together with sport has helped me keep a balance so that I can really be present when I'm doing each activity.
That's an amazing answer to a very difficult question, Viv, and really appreciate your taking the time to share Albi with us. Have you found Albi to be particularly helpful for you this year as you're literally halfway through your IB exams?
I think working the most useful part about working on Albi, I think not I don't know, unfortunately or fortunately, it wasn't exactly the final product itself because we didn't get to, it's meant to be used over long periods of time, but it was actually thinking about the design of the project and what study methods we wanted to incorporate. And I spent a lot of time researching, like reading a lot of these studies on the most efficient way to study and how the bit of the brain works. And having that knowledge and thinking about the design of Albi itself has actually helped me when I've been studying for my IB exams because I remember, oh, I should probably space this out. Oh, this I should at this moment, I don't think I'm going to gain much more from just rereading my notes. Let me try something more active. And creating the design of the original LMS really helped me to be more aware of my own studying, and it's helped it's helped me and kind of encouraged me to do a lot more metacognition. So during my actual studying, so I will write down things I don't feel comfortable with. I will do a practice exam, and then I'll see if what I don't feel comfortable with is actually if I'm actually not doing badly on it or if it's just a feeling that I have. And I think that's really helped me in preparation for IB exams.
So it's been that sort of like framing of like whether your sense of whether you know something is accurate versus whether you actually know it.
Yeah, and when we were thinking about the design of like having teachers communicate and help teachers understand what students are doing poorly on, I also realized like one of the main struggles that I think most students face is that we're unsure of what we really do know, of what we really understand.
Right.
There are a lot of misconceptions. Like sometimes I'll think that, I know this super well. And then when I have to actually apply it, maybe conceptually I understand it really well, but then at the time of application, it doesn't really work. And I'll be kind of, right now, we hope to transition into, I'll be kind of helping students solve that gap, because even right now, at one point, I've run out of practice questions and past papers to do that I have available. So I'm not sure where to go from here. And I think that's something that we I hope that I'll be can fix someday for someone. So they're not, I don't know what to do next, so that they have a study buddy there guiding them.
Now, Viv, can you tell us a little bit about your sort of testing process with graded teachers? Moises asks a question about, have teachers been receptive with uploading their slide decks and lesson summaries? There's value of having content summarized, so curious to hear if teachers were hesitant to upload their materials.
I have had a really great experience with my chemistry teacher. He was super open to allowing me to use his slides to test out the prompt and to run through the whole pipeline. However, there were some concerns I about the weather. Oh my, I completely blanked on the word, but academic property and intellectual property, sorry. And however, we were able to figure that out because we were using the API. It is still completely the teacher's intellectual property. ChatGPT does not store that information. They do not hold on to that information. That was one concern that we realized that we were going to have to face. But in regards to the overall idea of the LMS, the main feedback wasn't, it was more about the cost transitioning of the whole school transitioning. Teachers, I would say, were overall very receptive to the idea of uploading their slides and having the content summarized. But the main issue was really they would have to upload the slides two places, in a Google Classroom and in Albi. So I think that was overall their main concern, and not necessarily having the content summarized, which some of my teachers already actually do, but they have to do manually. And we also created this project trying to help them. And that's something that me and my sister spent a lot of time actually talking to teachers, because we have perspective. Our team is a team of students. So our conception of things is one thing, but that may change. So we really wanted to have that conversation with teachers from a very early stage.
No, I really appreciate that. And the thoughtfulness through which you've gone about this is of course of the utmost importance. That said, Viv, thank you so much for sharing Albi with us. This has been really insightful and really amazing to kind of hear and to learn more about your own sort of journey and supporting students in their college aspirations. Now, just because I've got you here, can you tell me a little bit about your sister's journey and your journey here in the college application space?
I would say they were both very different. Because I'm the second born, my parents, they were both, everybody in my family they were a lot more supportive. Not that they weren't supportive the first time around, but my parents kind of knew a little bit more of what to expect. But we both kind of gravitated a lot more towards liberal arts schools and not very large universities, because my sister, she always knew that she wanted to study engineering. So that was a little bit easier for her. She applied to those schools. And she's currently at Swarthmore. She actually had her engineering thesis today, presentation today. So she's officially done with her major. But going to a liberal arts school, and her talking about the liberal arts education really influenced my decision during the college application process, because at the beginning I wasn't unsure of whether that was something I really wanted, and whether I wanted to go for something more technical. So I ended up, because of my little bit indecisiveness, I ended up applying to a really large range of schools, as Mr. Neal can tell you. And I was constantly changing my mind about what I thought my major was. And I was really hesitant to kind of pursue kind of really pursues one major and one thing in my essays because they were always changing, and sometimes I felt like my classes, the classes that I chose at the end of sophomore year didn't really support my major choice, and that was something that caused me a lot of anxiety, because I think it's really hard to kind of know what you want to do in college. Lots of people change their majors there. So even when I was at the end of 10th grade, and that was something that looking back on was probably one of my main like worries when I was thinking about college applications. But I will say that writing the essays was, I think, a really important time of self-reflection and actually growth because I had to learn how to communicate myself and I had to understand what I wanted to get out of college, not only like where I wanted to go, but the experience that I wanted to have. And I felt like that was really something that clicked at the beginning. Because before I was like, oh, I want to go to a city or I want to go to this or I want to go to that. But I didn't really take too much time to reflect on the overall experience that I would want to take out of a college and have. So it was a really interesting journey.
So Viv, just because I'm sure many of the people watching are curious, what's next for you?
I think I am going to be studying applied math at Brown University, but I am a little bit unsure of my major still. But the great thing is, with the open curriculum, I'll be able to do a lot of exploring.
Well, that is a wonderful story, Viv, and we are very excited for you to have shared that with us. And you've chosen a wonderful university to be undecided about what your future entails. So congratulations on that. And Michael, without much fanfare or transition here, I'd love to hand off to you to hear a little bit more about Harvey and all that you and your team have been up to.
Yeah, happy to share more and congrats Vivi on both Albie and of course getting into Brown and awesome stuff that you've been able to accomplish. Um, I'll start with a few slides before going into a demo of the platform itself. Harvey is an AI college counselor, and a bit about myself. I've been doing college admissions work for about 6 years at this point. I started having gone through the college admissions process myself, coming from a Title I school where there were 400 students to one counselor. When I got into Columbia, I realized that the process was too hard and started mentoring students myself, even though I was still in college. And that birthed Dewey Smart, a college prep service that pairs current college students with high school students for mentorship across tutoring, test prep, and college admissions. Grew that company to serve around 400 students a year, have a leadership team to run the day-to-day. And so when ChatGPT came out, I saw it as a massive shift to the work that we do into our industry. And so wanted to make sure that there were thoughtful approaches to using AI in college admissions, both for students and for professionals like us. And so that's what birthed Harvey. I met Bao, my partner in crime. He's recently left Facebook to join me on this journey. And so when we think about sort of like the meta problem that we see in college admissions, it really is about the gap. And I don't think these numbers are incredibly surprising to anybody here on the call. For me, my college counselor in high school was always overwhelmed. He was a school counselor, he was a college counselor, he was an unlicensed psychologist at times. And I don't think our situation was very rare. And I even think that schools with resourcing, private schools, college prep schools, charter schools with great resourcing here, they still have similar dynamics and challenges. And there's a meta change that's happening with students of this generation, students of my generation even, which is that we communicate digitally rather than face to face. We text, we don't talk. And I think that's the dynamic that's only gotten stronger post-pandemic. And so when I look at the landscape of existing resources, I think they're good, but they still fall short. Free resources on the internet, they only work for the most proactive students. You still have to search out for college admissions guidance, and you still have to know what questions to ask. And even for the most proactive students, the resources are still scattered and disorganized across the internet, sprawled across Reddit threads, YouTube videos, vlogs, advice from older students. We have human counselors. On the private side, these are often very, very expensive, and I know, having run an IUC myself. At the same time, the resources that we have in our schools and our CBOs, they tend to be limited. We're always strapped for cash. We never have enough counselors to support caseloads, and that doesn't feel like it's a dynamic that's going to change. And so the goal with Harvey is to use AI to deliver best-in-class guidance in a proactive manner, free and free forever for our students. And so when we built Harvey, we did it with three things in mind, really trying to meet students, particularly low-income students, where they are. The first is keeping Harvey free and free forever. The second is allowing students to use Harvey at any time, so that if you are working a job after school, you need to pick up a sibling in the morning, you can still leverage our technology. And the last is meeting students in the language and in the forum where they're most comfortable. Students are digital, they text, they don't talk. And particularly for bilingual students, English might not be the language they want to most fluidly communicate in. And so Harvey can speak with students in different languages and see past non-standard English. And so ran through a few slides here. Let me start a demo of the platform itself. When we think about the stages of the college admissions journey, it starts with search, then the application, then paying for college. And the idea is to make sure that students have an AI support system at each stage of the journey. On the search part, we have an AI college search tool where instead of going through our complicated list of filters, going through a 19-page survey, having to create a new College Board account because you forgot the one you used for APs last year, we have a really easy tool where you as a student describe what you want in a college. And you do this in natural language. So you don't have to figure out what language college professionals use, what language apps use. You just use your own language. So I might say, I really love the liberal arts. I've been attracted to smaller class sizes. I'm in New York. My entire family is here. I think that's where I want to stay. And so from there, we will automatically turn that into a search for students. And I think what's missing in a lot of these other tools is that they're so focused on liberal arts, yes, no, small class size, yes, no, that they're missing a lot of the context that students give in conversations. And so now we know a lot more about the student and can make the search even more recommended. We can continue the search, 4-year, college, university, and continue to narrow down the list of schools that the recommendation is providing to students here. And so the goal is to eventually narrow down the list so that you can save schools that you want to do further research on, click into the website. You already have some high-level information here. And one thing that we've incorporated over the past few months is ROI information. So you can even see here, after 10 years, the return on investment of a degree is 149,000 to help students make more informed decisions about their college futures. In terms of the college application itself, there's a lot of moving pieces here. There's a lot more work we are going to do, but we've built a tool to help students brainstorm, outline, and edit their college essays. We never write essays for students. We never generate content for students. We never tell students what to write about. But just like a good human counselor is, we're going to ask them the right questions. So we have a whole bunch of different ways that students can get started. For time's sake, I'm just going to choose this one. I have a general idea to explore. From here, if you have no idea what you're going to write about as a student, you can tell that to Harvey. I have no idea what to write about. From there, Harvey will ask questions to get you to the right direction. So Harvey's asked here, let's start by talking about your extracurriculars. Tell me about your extracurriculars and what you enjoy about them. So I might say, well, I don't have much, but after school, I do need to pick up my brother every day to send him to daycare because my parents aren't working. And from there, Harvey will respond by acknowledging that what the student has said is valid, is sufficient for a college essay, and then follow up with the question to help the student think a little bit more deeply about their ideas. So in this case, can you share what you appreciate about this daily routine, knowing that college essays want reflection and want introspection. So I might say here, I'm I love spending time with him and talking about his day and talking about sports and video games. And again, validate and ask a question to further the conversation. After about 6 rounds of conversation here, we'll prompt students with 3 different versions of a potential essay to give them 3 narratives or 3 frames to think about their essay in. And then students can start writing the essay. We'll generate an outline for students. This is the only thing we generate, and it's to solve the empty page syndrome, where staring at a blank page is scary, whereas starting with an outline can be more straightforward. From here, students can write their essay. They can do it in the platform. They can do it on Google Docs and copy and paste it in. But once the essay is shared, once the essay is put in here, you can then get feedback about the essay. So I'm just gonna copy in my essay. When I applied to college, I'll click get feedback here. And then once I do, in a couple of seconds, feedback will be generated about the style, about the content of the essay itself, as well as feedback on even specific sentences within the essay that students can use to react to. Again, we're never writing the essay for students. We're never even generating new sentences. We're probably doing less than human counselors do in terms of editing, but we do it because we think that the right role for AI in college admissions is as a guide, as a counselor, as a coach, not as a generative writing tool. The last piece of Harvey that I'll show you is our scholarships tool. This is the piece that we're still developing, and there's a lot of nuances around how to think about scholarships versus need-based aid that we're still thinking through. But a similar type of flow where you can use AI to find the most recommended scholarships for you. And then when you come across a scholarship that needs writing, students can go through a similar brainstorming, outlining, and writing process. And so we're obviously very early in the stages of things. There are things we want to fix. There are things we want to improve. There are conversations we're having with schools and school counselors and leaders in the industry. But for us, I think the opportunity here is to take the college admissions advice that's floating in all of our brains, that's in some of these handouts that each of us create bespokely for our own students, and turn that into a solution that any student can use anywhere, anytime, for free. And it's an exciting vision that I am grateful for the chance to share with all of you guys today.
Michael, it's fascinating. And one of the things, of course, that you and I have spoken about is the deferential nature that you have to the ethics of the profession. That being said, when are you going live?
It's live now. It's live now. You can go to that website, and I'll put it here in the chat here, harveywithan.io, and each of you can make an account, pretend to be a student, and play around with it. We rolled out to students last August, did it with the small beta audience, and then went live. And this last cycle, we supported over 1,800 students across the world with their college admissions essays.
Well, you get about 111 more from Graded this coming cycle. So that being said, you said 1,800 users have, students have used it.
That's right. Yep. 1,800 users.
And what have you found to be the biggest obstacle so far in the work that you do?
Yeah. I think there is from a school counselor point of view, there is this nuance around we have Naviance or Score and some sort of like system of record that we use, but we recognize that it probably isn't the most student-friendly experience and that there's other resources that are. And what is the right way to sort of navigate? Well, like I want my student to put their college list in Score so I can track it, but at the same time, Score's college list search isn't very good and Harvey's is. And so it's something that we work with counselors on thinking about what the right way to integrate a tool like Harvey is with your existing systems and processes. And if there are ways that Harvey can be supportive through integrations or data exports of the work of counselors.
No, it's really interesting that you should share that, given the parallel with Vivian's experience in sort of understanding there are these existing systems and then you're the new guy. So then how do you integrate with the current existing systems? That's of course, going to be a challenge for those of us who are obsessed with efficiency. Um, that's and that is maybe a line item in a job description for a college counselor, I think. But that being said, what's next for you all right now?
Yeah, well, we're pretty actively developing new features on the college application front. We're also working with different schools who are interested in using Harvey as their system of record. So replacing a score and a Naviance with something that's demonstrably more effective for students and more user-friendly. And the last part is we've begun conversations with universities who are interested in recruiting students from our platform, or at least hosting events to students who use the platform. And so lots of exciting things that are happening, and would love to connect with folks in the audience and watching the webinar afterwards to see if there are potential opportunities to partner and collaborate.
Sure. And Sarah asked the question, is Harvey Scholarship feature accessible now as well?
It is, yeah. Everything I showed from the college list to the college application to scholarships is all accessible. Not all of it is perfect, but I think that's, the best part of showing people is that y'all can help guide us in terms of what we need to fix and what we need to build next.
It's really an amazing service, an amazing way to sort of augment the work that students get, no matter whether they're at a private school with a very small student to counselor ratio or a giant, ratio of what's the California average right now, 420 something to 1.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot. It's an awful lot. But regardless, to be able to find that sort of individualized personality, if not 500, yes, Sarah, exactly. North Bay, that's she's very familiar. But the idea of being able to give students that sort of customized attention and service, regardless of the day or time, that's really an amazing feature, an amazing functionality that I think so many of us, very much harkens back to Vivian's sort of like idea of tapping into the collective knowledge of the teachers, but being able to provide that collective knowledge at any time that the student wants or needs it is really an amazing feature. Are there any other
Absolutely.
sort of closing words or anything you'd like to end with?
No, I mean, I think, I appreciate all of you guys letting me share. And, I've only been doing college admissions for 6 years. And so there's always something new to learn about how college admissions works and how working with colleges works. So excited to continue learning with everyone.
No, and I so appreciate that perspective of the willingness to learn and recognizing that there's always more to learn. But that said, are there any questions from the audience for either Vivian or for Michael about Albie or Harvey? Anybody have anything in particular that they'd like to ask? Please put it in the chat if you are so able. Oh, Michael, is Harvey available on the App Store?
So right now it's a web-based platform that you can use on your phone. relatively easily. But definitely we've thought about building kind of a mobile first app in the future.
And Sarah, just for my own sort of perspective, when Michael and I met, I don't know, a couple months ago, and then I subsequently kind of tinkered with the toy. It was more just on a web-based my laptop, and very functional, very effective, very accurate, which were kind of the triumvirate of what I was looking for, accuracy probably being the most important one. And I was really impressed. As you might know, I've spent a lot of time tinkering with prompts, trying to see how accurate ChatGPT in particular could be in providing a college list, for example. And Harvey seems to kind of check a lot of boxes of the things that the prompts that I was creating wasn't able to do. So Moises asks, does Harvey enhance with more users submitted questions and prompts? Are you generating your own LLM in the way that Vivian's was with her Albi sort of memory, if you like, for lack of a better way to put it?
Yeah. And I think we probably have a lot to learn from Vivian about how to actually do some of the fine tuning of the model itself. Right now, we don't use student responses or data to train models. We don't use it. OpenAI also does not use that data because we have API access. And so anything that goes through the API is not used in the training of new models. Now, there's obviously this technology push on our side to be able to make our models as college access and admission specific as possible. There's this other dynamic from a privacy and student rights perspective about whether we want to do that and how we'd go about doing it. And so at this point, the only way that we have improved ChatGPT is through our own kind of writings, conversations that we fictitiously write to ourselves, and also students and parents who've given us express permission outside of the confines of a school to use their data. It's a really interesting question, and I think it's something we continue to grapple with.
Well, here's a more complicated question for you, Michael, in particular. Does Harvey help with making college lists for universities outside of the United States?
That would be cool. It is definitely something we've thought about, right? Because U.S. higher ed is only one important slice, but small slice of the entire world. So definitely something we're considering.
So not yet is the answer you want to give, right? Not
Not
yet.
yet. Not yet.
Growth mindset, growth mindset. Okay. Well, perfect. Any other questions from the audience? For again, either Vivian or Michael or in general? Pause for a moment and Michael put the link to Harvey and his email address as well. Now, coming back to Vivian just for a quick second, what's your availability? What's your sort of launch plan from your end?
Oh, sorry, is that for me?
Yes. For Vivian.
Okay. And right now we hope to finish fine-tuning the model and having it multimodal by the end of the summer. And from there, we have to revisit our original prototypes to plug it back in. But really, hopefully by August, September, we should have something fully running, fully functional, and producing quality stuff, and something that's completely ready to be used in classrooms. And that's our main hope.
An incredibly ambitious goal, but knowing you, Viv, knowing your sister a bit, I'm quite confident that you will come to make that happen. I'm quite confident of that.
We really hope so. And we're really, as soon as my IB exams finish, I'm gonna fully like dedicate myself to that. But my sister now, and Gabriel, they're completely on it. So that's gonna be exciting.
Now that your sister is finished college. That's the, just some ceremonies left, as I understand.
Yes, only some ceremonies, and she's actually going to take it full time over the summer. So that's going to be really exciting for both of us.
So, Jacqueline asked the question, did you try to incorporate growth mindset into Albee? It's quite a kind of a broad question. To ask the question more broadly, Viv, are you familiar with growth mindset?
I'm not sure. I think I have an idea, but I'm not completely sure.
So Jacqueline, would you be willing to sort of re-articulate your question? Growth mindset, Viv, is more that idea of kind of reframing things in a positive framework and thinking about the ways, for example, when Michael said that he was not yet able to apply Harvey to universities elsewhere in the world, I suggested not yet. It's that idea of sort of growing and moving into the space. So I'm wondering if Jacqueline is asking, and I'm pausing and slowing down in case she's typing an answer into the chat, but if she's asking if you've thought more about that idea of helping students to see where they're at and helping them to move to the next level.
Yeah, one of the main ideas that we have for our new prototype is helping students identify their weakness, but also providing a comprehensive list of questions that they could ask their teachers and of resources online. So helping students identify their weakness with the sole purpose of helping them address those weaknesses and improve them and to really overcome them. And I think that is kind of one of the main objectives of Albee, because it doesn't really matter if you know to know your weakness if you don't plan on working on it and improving on it. And that is something that we really want to help students do. And identifying our weakness is just the first step. And we hope to really provide a comprehensive resource for students to help them address those weaknesses. And that is the main goal that we have as of right now.
Sure. And as Jacqueline says in the chat, growth mindset, the concept of positive psychology being the brainchild of Carol Dweck from Stanford, a book that she wrote called Growth Mindset. But yeah, no, it's definitely something worth considering in the grand sort of panoply of all of those psychology and educational sort of terms and sort of concepts that you've embraced throughout Albee. So wonderful. Well, we are fully at time. And so I would like to take this moment just first to thank Vivian and her sister and Michael and his team for sharing their knowledge and insights. Really appreciate all of you who are able to join us and all of those of you who will be able to watch this recording afterwards. If you have any questions, please be in touch with me directly. Michael put his email in the chat, but I will ask Vivian not to do so for lots of privacy reasons. And so that being said, thank you so much. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.